Hi guys, welcome back to Loggery. Today we are going to talk about important current affairs or current affairs topics that you need to prepare for your Symbiosis interview. I'm going to give you the topics. I'm going to tell you somewhat. I have researched, conducted a research related to these topics. I'm going to share that research. I'm going to help you in understanding these topics. I'm going to tell you like what more you need to research, what are the expected questions from these topics, everything, right? So this video should be something that you should watch, make notes, read more about the topics that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to tell you everything, but it is important to be prepared when it comes to current affairs. So let's get started. Yeah guys, welcome to Loggery. I hope you're subscribed to Loggery's YouTube channel and hit that bell notification so that you do not miss any of our videos. And I hope you're following us on Instagram. We're there by the name at I am Loggery. We do pretty motivational stuff out there. If you want to stay happy, if you want to stay motivated, and if you want to stay connected a little more with Loggery, then do follow us on Instagram. The first and foremost is Assam-Mizoram border disputes. I've already done a video related to this. Link is going to be in the description box. Do check that out. A detailed video which tells you about everything. You don't need to conduct any research, just make note from this video and learn them, understand them. If you really want to, you can conduct a little Google research, right? Next is India-China border dispute updates. If you would have read the newspaper yesterday, The Hindu, you would have seen that. Oh yes, I want to tell you guys one more thing. Please follow me on at I am Loggery Instagram, wherein I post the important news from The Hindu as well as the Indian Express. It is very important to read the newspaper till the day. Even on the day you have your interview, you need to read the newspaper. Very important. If you are following me on Instagram, you'll know what is important and what is not. So India-China dispute, there is an update. You need to know about it, read about it. Pegasus spyware video, I've done a video on this also. Link is going to be in the description box. You can note these issues. Tokyo Olympics, Indians who have won medals, lost to, won from, and all of that. So we're going to discuss this in this very video. Right, cryptocurrency. You'll find an article on www.loggery.com. Go through that article and you will understand. Conduct a Google research related to this topic. Section 66A, Information Technology Act. Again, an article on www.loggery.com. Afghanistan and Taliban issue. You'll soon find an article, but yes, do research. Conduct your own research. Bills passed in the session of Lok Sabha, or bills passed in the Rajya Sabha during, Lok Sabha is going on, so we need to know about those bills as well. I'm going to give you the list of the bills that have been passed or everything of that sort. Please stay updated, read the newspaper every day. It is very important to read the newspaper. Okay, Tokyo Olympics. Now guys, I just want to tell you that what I planned that I'll just give you the topics, and then I said okay, I'll just tell you in brief what is there in each and every topic, but I ended up collecting data from everywhere, and so I have tried to put something together for all of you guys out there, but still conduct your own research, right? So Tokyo Olympics, we know Tokyo Olympics are going on, and yeah, they're about to finish also, but we need to know certain things related to this. So let's get started. Number one, Mirabai Chanu of India clinched a silver medal in weightlifting in the 49 kg category. You need to know the name of the player. Please note down the name of the player. You need to know the medal she has won. It is silver. Please keep on making the notes. As I'm telling you, 49 kg category. कौन सी category में? Weightlifting. What game is weightlifting category, 49 kg. Make notes. Then in Tokyo Olympics, became the first Indian weightlifter to win silver at the Olympics and the second Indian weightlifter after Karnam Malleshwari, who had won a bronze medal in 2000 Sydney Olympics. Matlab, she is the first player to ever win a silver, first Indian to ever win a silver in Olympics in weightlifting, and second to win a medal because Karnam Malleshwari has already won a bronze medal in 2000 Sydney Olympics. Again, very important, please make a note of the same. Short notes. You don't need to write entire sentences. Your note should be like this. Mirabai Chanu, then the next should be silver medal, something like this, very short notes, right? The gold was won by China's Hu Zihui, मुझे अब नाम नहीं लेना आता यार, मतलब ठीक है नाम नोट कर लो, who lifted a total of 210 kg, while Indonesia's Asia Windy Kantika won the bronze medal with a total of 194 kg. In her first snatch attempt, Mirabai Chanu attempted 84 kg. She followed it by lifting 87 kg in her next attempt and then raised the weight to 89 kg. Gold medal winner Zihu created a new Olympic record with an effort of 94 kg. The Chinese lifter also holds the world record with 96 kg in this category. Right, so you need to know, if you can learn this part, very good. If you cannot learn this part, the first paragraph is very, very important. Make notes from this. Okay, now she is from which state? She is from Manipur. And from this only the issue can start related to which? Mizoram and Assam issue, because it is part of the Seven Sisters. If you will watch my video, you will understand everything. She was awarded the Padma Shri and Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award in 2018. You should know that Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna, the award has been renamed. We are going to discuss the same in our video. You need to conduct a research related to these awards. You need to know the various types of awards that are there. You need to know what is Bharat Ratna, who has received Bharat Ratna. Please, this is important. Note it down. Conduct a research related to this. Then we have Chanu had won the silver medal in the women's 48 kg weight class at the 2014 Commonwealth Games, Glasgow. She went on to break the games record en route to the gold medal at the 2018 edition of the event held in Gold Coast. Right, in 2017 she won the gold medal at World Weightlifting Championships held in Anaheim, California. I don't know how to pronounce this, I'm sorry, but yeah, what is important is this. I think this is what is more important, that from which state she belongs to and the awards that she has received, right? If you can tell about this also, that would be also great, right? Indian boxer Lavlina Borgohain has won the bronze medal. Name of the player, very important. Name of the player, very, very important. Right, has won the bronze medal at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics after losing against world number 1 Busena Surmeneli. I know this is very, very difficult name, but Busena गुस्से साथ, गुस्से के साथ, busa and gusa, this is the same, so you can do like गुस्सा and busenas, गुस्से पे नाज करने वाली, Surmeneli. Okay, fine. So you need to remember, right? She lost to Busena Surmeneli of Turkey in name of the country in the boxing welterweight semi-final in 69 kg welterweight. So you need to remember this. Important. What is the game was boxing in the which category? 69 kg. Right, Lavlina Borgohain has won India's third medal at Tokyo Olympics 2020. So in counting, she has won the third medal. Now this is very important. The first pointer is very important. Please make a note of this. She is now the third Indian boxer. Now this is again very important, very, very important. She is the third Indian boxer to win bronze at the Olympics after Vijender Singh won bronze at 2008 Beijing Olympics and Mary Kom won bronze at 2012 London Olympics. She is the third Indian boxer. You need to remember who else has won medals, right? Lavlina Borgohain hails from the Golaghat district of Assam. Very important. Assam is there again. So yeah, Assam Mizoram issue can be there, it can be there, right? Her father is a small scale businessman. Now this is important. The place she belongs to is really, really important. This is important. Make a note of this. Make a note of this, right? She was honored with the prestigious Arjuna Award by President Ramnath Kovind virtually for her outstanding performance in boxing. Now this is again very important. That is why it is important to know about the awards, the different awards that are there. I think you'll find a document on Loggery as well. I'll link it if it is there. Otherwise, pick up any GK book and revise the awards section. If you don't have any GK book, Google. She has previously won a gold medal in International Boeing Championship held in February 2018 in welterweight category. She also won bronze at the Asian Boxing Championship in Vietnam. What you can do is remember the recent ones, the 2018 ones you can remember, everything else you can leave, because I can understand it is difficult to remember so much, right? PV Sindhu has become first Indian woman to win 2 Olympic medals. Important. Now, Sindhu defeated He Bingjiao. जियो से याद कर सकते हो. He binged me. Bing यार कुछ है ना, आई थिंक एक सॉफ्टवेयर है. He binged का मतलब टेक्सटेड भी होता है आई थिंक, या बिंग का मतलब टेक्सटेड होता है. पिंग का होता है या बिंग का, चलो कुछ भी लगा लो. He बिंग, जियो से याद कर लो. जी आओ नहीं ये पता है कैसे याद हो सकता है. He बिंज्ड मी कि पिंग मतलब टेक्सटेड मी कि जी आओ. ठीक है, he बिंज जियाओ याद करना इजी. आई थिंक you can remember this name. Okay, so He Bin-jiao in women's single bronze medal match at Tokyo Olympics 2020, the first Indian woman to finish on podium 2 times at Olympics. ये 2 बार लिख दिया मैंने. Now at Rio Olympics, Sindhu had won women's single badminton silver. So this is important. Rio Olympics, right? At Rio Olympics she had won. So I'll mark it with red. This is important. This is important. This is important. She has become second Indian athlete to win 2 Olympic medals in the individuals event following Sushil Kumar. Now important, now you need to know Sushil Kumar has been arrested related to a murder case. So read a bit about it. Please note down. You will forget after this. Please note down. Even if your interview is tomorrow, the video is up late, you will sit down and prepare. So yeah, murder case. Sushil Kumar murder case is another important topic. Sushil Kumar has won wrestling bronze in 2008 in Beijing and went one step further to win silver at London Games, in which India achieved the best ever tally of 6 medals. But this is old. Now the medal tally has increased, right? You need to remember the full name of PV Sindhu. Very important again, because that's what came to my mind. I don't know. She's from Hyderabad. Now if you are giving the interview for SLS Hyderabad, or you hail from Hyderabad, you are from Hyderabad, again important, keep that in mind. You know, relation, how you're related. Now silver in 2016 Rio Olympics, gold in 2019. Now 2016 में Rio Olympics थे ना, वहाँ पे हमने यहाँ पे भी we have noted here also Rio Olympics, but here 2016 Rio Olympics, note it down like this. 2016 Rio Olympics, gold in 2019 World Championships, everything. And she has been awarded with Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna in 2016 itself, in the year. Now you can remember like this: 2016 Rio Olympics silver, Khel Ratna 2016 itself, right? Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan. So all of these awards. Again, this is important. Let me change the color of my pen. This is important. This is important. Her full name is important. From where she is, Hyderabad. She is from Hyderabad. Very important. Need to make a note of the same, right? So please note down. Indian wrestler Ravi Kumar Dahiya settled for silver after losing a hard-fought final against ROCs. ROC. Now this is related to Russia. So Russia, the country, Russia is playing. The players of Russia are not playing directly through Russia. They are playing through ROC. That is, I think, Olympic Committee. Russia's Olympic Committee. Now you need to research about ROC. I'm sorry I couldn't conduct like a deep research, because the more I was researching, the more time it was taking, and the more, you know, the video was getting delayed, right? So I thought that I'll tell you guys what you need to research, and then you can do like that would help you more. So you need to research about what is ROC, right? Yur Ugyev in the men's 57 kg gold medal match, right? So he has won silver. Name of the game. Now this should be the name of the player, right? Name of the player, then name of the game, category. You should note it down like this, right? Good note. Now Ravi Kumar Dahiya belongs to Nhari village in Sonipat, Haryana. Now if you belong to Haryana, no, then you need to know everything, which village, where is it, and everything, right? And if you are from Haryana, you need to have good knowledge of other players who have won, you know, the medals and everything. Now, he was trained in North Delhi's Chatrasal Stadium. He had previously won a bronze medal at 2019 World Wrestling Championship. He had earlier won the silver medal, and all of this. Please make a note of all of this. What is really important, where he belongs to, who he lost to, and yeah, what is his name, game, and category. This is the basic you need to know about that. India won bronze medal in men's hockey after beating Germany 5-4. India won bronze men's hockey, bronze, right? This is what you need to note. And then thereafter we have Germany. जर्मनी किसको बीट किया? जर्मनी को 5-4. स्कोर क्या था? 5-4. The Indian men's team won bronze, a first medal in sport at the Olympic Games since 1980. This is India's third bronze medal in hockey in Olympic history. Note it down. Note everything. This you need to learn. This is India's fourth bronze medal at the Olympics. They last won a bronze medal in 1972 Munich Olympics. Who is the captain of Indian men's hockey team? Manpreet Singh, who's the goalkeeper. P.R. Srijesh. Goals: Simranjeet Singh, Hardik Singh, Harmanpreet Singh, and Rupinder Pal Singh. They were the ones who had, I think Simranjeet Singh got 2 goals, right? So these are the things that you need to remember. Please make a note of this also. This you need to know. 2020, 1972, first gold medal, right? India won the first gold medal in 1928, Amsterdam, gold medal. Then 2020, last was in 1972, Munich, we got a bronze medal, right? So I want to tell you the previous slide, it was related to men's hockey, right? The medals that men's hockey team has been winning all over these years in Olympics. Indian women have done themselves and India proud with a valiant effort at the Tokyo Olympics, captained by Rani Rampal. Important, you need to research about Rani Rampal. She has a really interesting story. She belongs to a family who couldn't afford anything, but she, with the dint of her hard work, has reached where she has reached. The team lost the hockey bronze medal match 3-4 to the Rio Olympic champions at the Oi Hockey Stadium in Tokyo. At Tokyo Olympics, ये ढूंढ लेना कि किसको lost किया. Bronze was won by Great Britain. Okay, so the women hockey team lost to Great Britain. Yeah, it was Great Britain. At Tokyo Olympics, Indian hockey team becomes the first women's hockey team from the country to make it to semi-finals in Olympics. So it's for the first time that women's hockey team has made it to semi-finals. This you need to remember. Lost to whom? Lost to whom? Great Britain. Right, who's the captain? You need to also remember, I would suggest, remember the name of 3 to 4 players. And if any player belongs to your state, make sure you know about her. Right? Neeraj Chopra became only the second Indian to win an individual gold in Olympics, outperforming the field by quite a distance to notch up the first track and field games medal for the country. So Neeraj Chopra. Right, so Neeraj Chopra has won gold, right? Name of the player, the 23-year-old farmer's son from Khandra village near Panipat in Haryana, which was the other player that was from Haryana. This person is also from Haryana, Neeraj Chopra, right? Important, make a note of the same. Produced the second throw of 87.58 meter in the finals to stun the athletics world and end India's 100-year wait for a track and field medal in the Olympics athletics. Right, so 87.58 meters. This is important. Age is also important. I think he's just 23, has lots to do. State from where he is, city, right? Chopra won the country's 7th medal and first gold in this Olympics and joined shooter Abhinav Bindra 2008 Beijing Games as India's individual gold winners. Only one, Abhinav Bindra won gold in the Beijing Olympics. Now this is important. Please, it is very important that you should know about his post in the army. He was a Subedar, right? So you need to know about that also, right? And yeah, and also these players are getting awards and they're getting cash prizes. If you can read about that, that would be also good. With this, the country surpassed the previous best haul of 6 medals achieved in 2012 London Games. Neeraj Chopra will be taking the flag for India at the Tokyo Olympics closing ceremony. Neeraj Chopra threw a best attempt of 87.58 meter to win the Olympics gold. Czech Republic's Jakub Vedelich won silver and fellow Czech Viteslev won bronze to complete the podium. Right? Please find out about he's from army basically. He's a Subedar, so you need to know about that. So guys, Bajrang Punia, note down the name. Bajrang Punia has won bronze in Tokyo 2020 Olympics. You need to research about this person. Because I had done the entire research and was in process of recording, couldn't really do that. But yes, again, very important, Bajrang Punia, you need to research about this person, this sports player, right? Important because he has won bronze medal at the Olympics. Now the next is talking about Olympics in general. Tokyo is hosting 2020 Olympics, Paris will be hosting 2024 games, and the 2028 Summer Olympics will be hosted by Los Angeles, that is LA, right? Los Angeles. Australia's Brisbane will be host of the 2032 Olympics and Paralympics. Brisbane becomes the third Australian city to host the games after Sydney in 2000, Melbourne in 1956. All of this needs to be noted down, but very, very nicely. 2020 Tokyo, 2024 where the games are happening, Paris, easy to remember. 2028 LA, Los Angeles. Then 2032 where it is, Brisbane, right? And Brisbane also, it's the third time that the Olympics would be held where, in Australia, right? Important, make a note of all this, right? Then 5 new sports have been introduced in Tokyo Olympics. They are baseball, softball, karate, skateboarding, surfing, and sport climbing. Again, important, make a note of this. Tokyo Olympics 2002 mascot Mirai Tova. I did not check. Mirai Tova. Please check the pronunciation. Pronunciation to be checked is the name of this year's mascot and was unveiled at the Tokyo Olympics mascot back in February 2018 ahead of the planned 2020 Summer Game. The name Mirai Tova comes from two Japanese words, Mirai meaning future and Tova meaning eternity. Eternity is a period of time that never seems to end, right? The people who had a good experience at the Olympics, for them that time is going to stay with them forever. So please make a note of this, important. The name Sumaiti comes from, now this is Sumaiti is the mascot for Paralympics, right? For Paralympics. Sumai Yoshino, a popular type of cherry blossom. Oh, have you ever, like, I love perfumes made from cherry blossom, like the body sprays. And the phrase so mighty, cherry blossom, you know, the fragrance, the moisturizer of cherry blossom is really good. It's so mighty, right? So mighty. You know, even if you say so mighty, you can say so mighty, right? So mighty can show enormous mental and physical strength, representing Paralympic athletes who overcome obstacles and redefine the boundaries of possibility. So disabilities, they have disabilities, right? Paralympic people. And then also they come, they play the game, and so that's their mighty. So they are so mighty. Okay, 5 rings on the Olympic symbol, you know, they are like this. I don't know if I'm drawing them right, or I have drawn this for Audi. No, this is not for Audi. So 5 rings on the Olympic symbol represent the 5 continents. Important. Color of the rings, red, green, yellow, blue, and black. First Olympic Games were held in 1896. Motion, first ever Indian fencer to qualify for the Tokyo Olympic Games 2020, Bhavani Devi. Entry in the final of discus throw event, Kamalpreet Kaur. Again, you need to remember these names. Important. India's highest sporting honor, Khel Ratna Award, which was named after former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, was rechristened in the honor of hockey wizard Dhyan Chand following the admirable performance of both men's and women's hockey teams in the Tokyo Olympics. So earlier it was Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna. Now it's Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna, right? The name has been changed to admire the performance of both men's and women's hockey teams in Tokyo Olympic. Respecting their sentiment, the Khel Ratna will hereby be called the Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award, not Dhyan Chand, Major Dhyan Chand Khel Ratna Award. Please make a note of the same. Important. The prestigious award carries a prize money of rupees 25 lakh. Now, who is Dhyan Chand? Major Dhyan Chand was an Indian field hockey player widely regarded as one of the greatest in the history of the sport. He was a hockey player. Important, please make a note of the same. He was known for his extraordinary goal scoring feats in addition to earning 3 Olympic gold medals in 1928, 32, 36 during an era where India dominated field hockey. His influence extended beyond these victories as India won the field hockey event in 7 out of 8 Olympics from 1928 to 1964, popularly known as the Wizard or the Magician of Hockey for his superb ball control. Chand played internationally from 1926 to 1949. He scored 570 goals in 185 matches according to his autobiography, Goal. Important. All of this is very important. The government of India awarded Chand India's third highest civilian honor of Padma Bhushan in 1956. His birthday, 29th August, is celebrated as National Sports Day in India every year. Important, right? UN Heritage List, again very important. You need to research about it. What is UN Heritage List? What are the benefits and everything of that? I wanted to add, but I forgot. So we're just going to see which are the Indian, monuments or places that have been added to the list. Okay. Telangana's Kakatiya Rudreshwara Temple, also known as Ramappa Temple, has been given a World Heritage Site tag by UNESCO. Full form of UNESCO. You need to know the full form of UNESCO and what is the purpose, the organization is doing. You need to know all this. Make a note of this. You are going to do this. Even if your interview is tomorrow, don't sleep. Hardly matters. The interview matters. The decision was taken at the 44th session of the World Heritage Committee of UNESCO. Ramappa Temple, a 13th century engineering marvel named after its architect Ramappa, was proposed by the Indian government as its only nomination for the UNESCO World Heritage Site tag for the year 2019. Rudreshwara Temple, which is located at Palampat, Mulungu district, ye important hai, in the state of Telangana. If you belong to Telangana, Hyderabad, if you are from south, then you should know. This is important. And if you are from north, east, west also, then also you should know which temple has been added, right? 2013 AD, during the rule of Kakatiya Empire, the Rudreshwara Temple was constructed. Rudreshwara, right? Practice to speak this. This temple was constructed by Kakatiya King Ganpati Deva's general Richrala Rudra. This is the deity. Now, Ramalingeshwara Swami is the presiding deity of this temple. This is also very important. The temple is also known as Ramappa Temple, named so after the sculptor who for 40 years executed the work in the temple. Again, very important, very important. All of this is important. You need to remember all of this, all these things. The temple complexes built during the reign of Kakatiyas have a distinct style, decoration, and technology. The Ramappa temple is an exhibition of this unique style, and hence it stands as a testimonial to the creative genius of Kakatiyans. On 6 feet height, star-shaped platform stands the Ramappa temple with pillars, ceiling, and wall decoration with complex carvings that attest to the unique skill of Kakatiyan sculptors. The COVID-19 pandemic, the year 2020's World Heritage Committee meeting of the UNESCO could not be conducted, and hence the nominations for 2020 and 2020 were discussed via online meetings. These meetings are currently underway. There are 21 members in the World Heritage Committee, with the current chair of the committee being China. This is important. But China is heading the committee. This is important, and all of this you should know. The previous slide is much more important. Dholavira becomes the 4th site from the state of Gujarat to be added to this list by UNESCO. Again, important. Dholavira is the next place that has been added after Rani Ki Vav, the walled city area of Ahmedabad, and Champaner. Dholavira becomes the 4th site from the state of Gujarat to be added to this list by UNESCO. If you are from Gujarat, conduct an extensive research. Even if you are not from Gujarat, you need to know the name and everything. Dholavira is one of South Asia's most well-preserved urban settlements. The city was discovered in the year 1968, and it is located on the Khadir Island in Great Run of Kutch district in the state of Gujarat. The city of Dholavira is spread over 22 hectares, and it is Indus Valley civilization's 5th largest archaeological site. The city dates back to approximately 3000 BC, and it is believed that the city was occupied till 1500 BC. Its name is taken from the Dholavira village located on the Indo-Pakistan border. Locally, this site is known as Kotga Timba, the Fort Mound. This site is divided into three parts. They are the middle town, the citadel, and the lower town. The citadel had detailed structures of fortification. Excavation by Archaeological Survey of India on this site has revealed that the city houses were constructed using limestones, and all of them were connected to a sewage network. Thanks to, so you can read all of this, conduct a research yourself also. If nothing else, remember the name, please. Miscellaneous important news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to launch e-rupee digital payment solution. What it is? E-rupee digital payment solution. Again, very important. Please research about this. You should conduct a research about this. E-rupee is a cashless and contactless instrument for digital payments. It acts as an e-voucher based on a QR code or SMS string, which is delivered to the mobile phones of the beneficiaries. National Payments Corporation of India developed e-rupee platform on its UPI platform. It has onboarded banks to act as issuing entities. It was launched in collaboration with Department of Finance Services, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and National Health Authority. E-rupee connects the sponsors of the services with the beneficiaries. Now what it does, this is important. What does e-rupee do? Someone has sponsored, someone wants to sponsor a service. Say during COVID, people wanted to sponsor oxygen cylinders or food or medicines, whatever. So there's a sponsor who wants to sponsor a service. Then there's a beneficiary. With the beneficiaries and service providers, someone is going to provide that service, someone is going to deliver that oxygen cylinder or the medicine and to the beneficiary, right, in a digital manner without any physical interface. Now the money needs to be paid. Now the sponsor, the person who has sponsored needs to pay. So the person can give the person e-voucher, right? E-voucher can be given to the beneficiary, and the beneficiary once receives the service or whatever is the case, but for this purpose e-vouchers would be there. It also ensures that the payment of the service provider is made only after the transaction is completed. Being prepaid in nature, it assures timely payment to the service provider without involvement of any intermediary. Now what is the benefit? Obviously, if someone wants to sponsor something, we all want that if we are paying money for something, it is used for that very purpose itself, and also the service provider should get the timely payment. So this is what it is. In the e-voucher, the sponsor would have to pay beforehand, but the service provider would get the money once the service has been provided and would get the money for sure, because the beneficiary can use it for that purpose only. Do research about it a little more. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will virtually preside over an open debate at United Nations Security Council UNSC on August 9, 2021. So, who would be presiding? Narendra Modi, Prime Minister. Debate will be held on the issue of maritime security at UNSC. Maritime security. Now, you need to research what is maritime security and everything of that sort. India is holding presidency of UNSC for August, and Narendra Modi has become the first Indian Prime Minister to chair an open debate at UNSC. So he's the first Prime Minister to do so. After getting elected to UNSC, India highlighted its goals of promoting responsible and inclusive solutions to international peace and security. India would also pitch for a reformed multilateral system. Now, number one thing is maritime security. Number two is what? Goal of promoting responsible and inclusive solutions to international peace and security. Number three is reformed multilateral system. Research what is multilateral system. Important. You need to know what is multilateral system. What is United Nations Security Council? Please read about United Nations. Please read about United Nations. You should know. UNSC is one among 6 principal organs of United Nations. It has been tasked with ensuring international peace and security. It also recommends admission of new members at UNSC and approve any change to UN Charter. Right? Now, you need to know there are how many organs? 6 organs of United Nations, and UNSC is one of them, right? Some of its functions and powers include establishment of peacekeeping operations, enactment of international sanctions, and authorization of military action. It is the only UN body having the authority to issue binding resolutions on member states. Background you can read. Please read about United Nations. Please conduct a Google research. right? A Google research wherein you get the basic idea of what is United Nations, when it came into being, what is UNSC, what is UN Charter. You need to know about this, right? India was elected to the UN Security Council with 184 of the total 192 votes. Now don't get confused. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister, is going to preside for a month, right? He's going to preside for a month, that's that. But this is when you are elected for as many as 2 years. India is elected for 2 years. Now we'll read and you will understand, don't get confused. A member country needs a 2/3 majority of votes in the general assembly to become a non-permanent member, right? To become a non-permanent member of UNSC, you have to you need 2/3 of majority of votes in the General Assembly. Again, important, make a note. This is the 8th time India has been elected as a non-permanent member. The Security Council is one of the UN's 6 main organs and is aimed at maintaining international peace and security. It held its first session on 17 January 1946 in Westminster, London. The UNSC, now this is important, UNSC has 15 members and 5 of them, US, UK, Russia, China and France, are permanent members. In UNSC, there are 5 permanent members and India is not a permanent member. India is not a permanent member. If India would have been a permanent member, why would it get elected, right? Who have veto rights? Who have veto rights? Ye to likh lo. This line you need to note it down and we'll discuss about this for sure. The 10 elected or non-permanent members have a tenure of 2 years. And for this 2 years, India has been elected, right? At present, the non-permanent members are, you can note down the name, non-permanent members of the Security Council, however, do not have veto rights. Now, what is the difference between permanent and non-permanent members? Number one, permanent are permanent. They don't get elected, nothing. Non-permanent get elected for 2 years, right? And they do not have veto power, right? This, in the eyes of several observers, makes them a toothless grouping because they cannot assert their will on any matter of international concern, merely persuade or dissuade other member states from acting in a certain way. So we'll see what is a veto power. But before that, India had last assumed the role of a non-permanent member at UNSC in 2011-2012. Prior to that, it was a non-permanent member in these many years. Now it is in 2021 till 23. Please check if I'm right. I think I am right. In August, India will serve as the president of the council, a position held by each of the members in turn for 1 month according to the alphabetical order of the member state. So you should not get confused. We will preside. India would preside in the month of August. He would serve as the president of the council, right, for 1 month. And how one becomes the president of the council? A position, read this, a position held by each of the members in turn for 1 month according to the alphabetical order of the members, right? But to become an elected member or a non-permanent member, what you need to do? Majority. And I talked about that in the previous slide. So this is the difference. I hope you get to know. Even I got confused that how, like 1 month, 2 year, what is it? So this is it, right? Now veto is to refuse to give official permission for an action or plan. So what happens if there are 5 permanent members, 5 permanent members are there and 10 non-permanent members are there, right? Now if normally the voting would take place, and if even if say 14 votes are in favor of something, but 1 vote of non-permanent member says no, this won't happen, right, then that cannot happen. So this veto power is with whom? With the permanent members. Still, this veto power is with the permanent members. If they exercise their veto power saying that we won't allow this to happen, then that won't happen. Even if all of the entire members, elected, non-elected, are on one side, but only if 1 permanent member stands up and uses his or her veto power, that cannot happen then, right? That is what is veto power. So veto power is with the permanent member. The non-permanent members are not having any veto power. Now, As you know, Lok Sabha is in session. There are a lot many bills that are being passed. Please, people, follow me on Instagram. I try, I would keep on, updating you on Instagram, or I'll have a page on my website. But please follow the newspaper really closely. Airports Economic Regulatory Authority of India Amendment Bill 2021. The Airports Economics Regulatory Authority of India Amendment Bill 2021 was introduced in Lok Sabha on March 24, 2021. It seeks to amend the Airports Economic Regulatory Authority of India Act. Right? So why it is there? It wants to amend which act? Please note it down. Airport Economic Regulatory Authority of India Act 2008. The 2008 Act established the Airport Economic Regulatory Authority, that is AERA. Now what did this act do? This established which authority? AERA, right? AERA regulates tariffs and other charges such as airport development fees for aeronautical services rendered at major airports in India. So it takes care of the tariffs and every charges that are to be charged. Major airports. The 2008 Act designates an airport as a major airport if it has an annual passenger traffic of at least 35 lakhs. कब होगा major airport? When it would be said to be a major airport, when the passenger traffic footfall is at least minimum it is 35 lakhs. Right? The central government may also designate any airport as a major airport by a notification. Now this power has central. This is what previously is there. Right? Major airport, 35 lakhs footfall minimum. Central government can also notify that okay, this airport is a major airport. Right? Now the bill adds that the central government may group airports and notify the group as a major airport. What it does, it can create a group of the airports and say okay, this together becomes a major airport. This is what is there. Now you need to search that what if an airport is a major airport, what happens, what not. So that detail you need to find. Really, in short, just find what is a major airport, the definition of major airport, and learn whatever I've talked about. That's it. Lok Sabha passes Tribunals Reforms Bill. A lot of discussion is taking place around this bill. Tribunal Reforms Bill 2021 seeks to replace Tribunal Reforms, Rationalization and Conditions of Service Ordinance 2021. Now people, I want to tell you, add on, you need to remember the Lok Sabha, Lok Sabha, what is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and you need to remember that the process by which law comes into being, you need to know about that. You need to be clear with regard to that. I won't shy away from saying that if you want to buy my course, my Indian Constitution course, to understand these terms and everything, please buy, please invest your money, but please make sure you clear the interview. And if you're not buying my course, whichever book you have Universes, AP Bhardwaj, Willy, any book that you have used for legal aptitude preparation for your exams, make sure you revise your Indian Constitution from there. You make sure that you remember, you have a good understanding of the important terms. You need to know what is an ordinance. It is one of the powers of the president. You need to know what is an ordinance. It is one of the powers of the president. When you open up the chapter of powers of the president, you will know what is an ordinance. Right? Need to know about that. Now, bill was passed by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. You need to know who is our Finance Minister. Important. Right? Bill provides for abolition of tribunals or authorities under several acts by amending the Cinematograph Act. So it abolishes various tribunals. It abolishes various tribunals that were there under these acts: Cinematograph Act, Copyrights Act, Customs Act. Bill dissolves certain existing appellate bodies. Now, what is appellate? What is an appeal? Say there is a court which has passed an order, given the decision, right? Now the parties want to challenge it. So we say they have gone in appeal. Right? This much you need to understand. The basic, I don't want to go into the details so that you are confused. Nothing. The bill dissolves certain existing appellate bodies and transfers their functions to other existing judicial bodies. So there were these appellate bodies, tribunals were there. Now they have been abolished and their functions have been transferred to existing judicial bodies. The term of office for the chairperson and members of a tribunal will be 4 years, subject to an upper age limit of 70 years for the chairperson and 67 years for the other members, right? This has also been changed. Important, the bill specifies that a person should be at least 50 years of age to be eligible for appointment as a chairperson or member. These 2 points are important. Key issues: the term of office of 4 years is lower than the minimum of 5 years directed by Supreme Court in various judgments. The Supreme Court has also noted that the minimum age limited requirement of 50 years for appointment of members may discourage young talent. It has earlier directed that advocates with 10 years of experience be made eligible to be appointed as judicial member. Abolishing tribunals may increase the disposal time of new cases. Now, so basically these are the changes, and tribunals, various tribunals that I had named some in the previous slide, have been abolished. Their functions are going to be performed by judicial bodies. And what people are saying, what are they saying? That disposal time is going to increase. It is going to take more time for the cases to get decided because the burdens of the high courts and the other courts on which would be handling these cases would increase, right? Essential Defense Services Bill 2021. Now, Essential Defense Services Bill approved हुआ है, pass हुआ है, was introduced in Lok Sabha by the Minister of Defense, Mr. Rajnath Singh. The bill seeks to replace the ordinance promulgated in June 2021. Again, the word ordinance has been used. The bill allows the central government to prohibit strikes, lockdowns, and layoffs in units engaged in essential defense services. So I've done a video wherein I've explained this bill, right? Legal current affairs video. I'll leave the link of the video in the description box below, so I won't be explaining it out here. Please watch that video. Retrospective tax, Khan Energy case. I have explained this case really nicely. I've explained the concept of retrospective tax. So bill will withdraw the retrospective amendment in the Income Tax Act of 1961 that raised demands on Vodafone, Khan and some other cases. Bill seeks to attract foreign investments. As per the bill, no tax demand would be raised in future based on the retrospective amendments for any indirect transfer of Indian assets in case transaction was undertaken before May 28, 2012. Now guys, please, for God's sake, do watch that video. Khan Energy case I've explained towards the end of the video. Link is going to be in the description box. Explained everything and even linked it to Indian Constitution, that how it is linked to Indian Constitution. A very important thing. This is important, very, very important. Even if you're leaving all other bills, this thing you should study, really important. Factoring Regulation Amendment Bill 2020. Now, what is factoring? I'll give you an example. So basically, there's this person A who manufactures clothes. C, being the shopkeeper, he orders or whatever clothes from A. Now, A manufactures the clothes, and on discount the bill is of 90,000, and otherwise the bill is 1 lakh, right? Let's, for example, now mostly in businesses, one problem is there is of cash flow. Now A has spent his money on buying the raw material and everything, and maybe if A is a small scale manufacturer, A needs this 90,000, 1 lakh rupees to keep the production on, right? Now C, being the shopkeeper, might or might not have this 90,000 or 1 lakh, right? Discount ke saath it is 90,000 and the total is this. Now here comes a factor. Who is this? A factor. Now the factor would pay 90,000, the discounted price 90,000 he'll pay, and the 10,000, right? But he'll take 1 lakh from the shopkeeper. He'll take 1 lakh from the shopkeeper. He'll take 1 lakh from the shopkeeper. So he earns this 10,000. Now what happens? What is the benefit? The manufacturer would continue his manufacturing. The shopkeeper, whoever he or she is, would get the material and everything, and the factor would be able to earn rupees 10,000. Now that is what a factoring, right? Now it has incorporated many suggestions from the UK Sinha committee. Now there was this committee which was there and which related to this, so it has incorporated a lot of suggestions from there. The Factoring Regulation Amendment Bill 2020 was introduced in Lok Sabha on September 14, 2020. The bill seeks to amend the Factoring Regulation Act 2011 to widen the scope of entities which can engage in factoring business. Why it is to widen the scope of, why it is there? Widen the scope of entities which can engage in factoring business, right? Now, under the Factoring Regulation Act, factoring business is a business where an entity referred as factor acquires the receivables of another entity referred as assigner for an amount. Receivables is the total amount that is owed or yet to be paid by the customers referred to as the debtors to the assigner for the use of any goods, services or facility. Right? समझ में आ गया? That what I told, a factor is a person who pays the bill. Assigner is the person, right? Assigner might be the manufacturer or the person who has provided the service, right? Factor can be bank registered, non-banking financial company or any company registered under the Companies Act. Note that credit facilities provided by a bank against the security of receivables are not considered as factoring business. Now, what are the changes that have come? It seeks to amend the Factoring Regulation Act 2011 to widen the scope of entities which can engage in factoring business. Now, there were certain conditions that were there, and there were certain requirements, so not everyone could do this business, but now there are certain changes so that there are more companies engaged in this business. The current law, which gave the Reserve Bank of India authority to allow non-bank finance companies to remain in factoring business only if it was their principal business, right? Non-bank finance companies were allowed to stay in the business only if it was their principal business, right? It was their main business was this. Then only a non-bank finance company was allowed, right? That is, more than half of assets were to be deployed and income earned from factoring business, right? So could be we can say that this business should be the major part. This was what the previous law was. The bill removes this threshold and opens up the opportunity in this business to more non-bank lenders at a time small businesses are facing financial stress. Now, this condition has been removed. So now bank lenders can come up, and because of coronavirus, because of COVID, the cash flow has come to a stop. Like, a lot of people are not having the cash, so to restart that cash flow, they have this condition is no more there. Okay. National Institutes of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management Bill 2021 was passed. This bill was moved by Pashupati Kumar Paras, who is the Food Processing and Industries Minister. Important. The bill lays down various provisions for institutes of food technology, management and entrepreneurship. This bill also seeks to declare the Indian Institute of Food Processing Technology, which is located at Thanjavur, and the National Institute of Food Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management, which is located at Kundli, as institutions of national importance. Please check the states that they are in, right? This bill also seeks to provide for research and instructions in these field. This bill had already been passed in the Rajya Sabha in the month of March. So this is a law now, right? What are the institutes of national importance? We have read that now this has declared the Institute of Food Processing, and both of these institutes are the institutes of national importance. So what is national institutes of national importance? Is a status that may be conferred on a premier public higher education institute in India by an act of Parliament of India, an institution which serves as plays a vital role player in developing highly skilled personnel within the specified region of the country or state. Institutes of national importance receive special recognition, higher autonomy, higher independence and funding from the government. ज़्यादा पैसा मिलता है, ज़्यादा independence मिलती है to take their own decisions, right? So this is that. The Juvenile Justice, Care and Protection of Children Amendment Bill 2021, which seeks to amend the Juvenile Justice Act 2015. This is again very, very important. Like I told you, the retrospective amendment thing, likely this is very, very important. This is something that they can expect that you should know. While introducing the bill, Smriti Irani, Zubin Irani, Union Minister of Women and Child Development, stressed upon the necessity for entrusting district magistrate with the responsibility of care and protection of vulnerable children in light of the prevailing inadequacies in the system. Right. The amendments include authorizing district magistrate, including additional district magistrate, to issue adoption orders under Section 61 of JJ Act in order to ensure speedy disposal of cases and enhance accountability. Now, what happens is adoption is a really difficult procedure. I mean, there are parents, even I know, who want to adopt, but they are not able to adopt because it takes good 2 to 3 years to adopt a child. Right. But for speedy disposal, to ensure speedy disposal, what they have done is they have given this power to the district magistrate, including to the additional district magistrate under section 61 of the JJ Act. Please read section 61 of the Juvenile Justice Act. The district magistrates have been further empowered under the Act to ensure its smooth implementation as well as garner synergized efforts in favor of children in distress conditions. As per the amended provisions of the Act, any child care institution shall be registered after considering the recommendations of the district magistrate. So now the district DM would be at the district level. So every district would have its own system, right? And it would be speedy. The DM shall independently evaluate the functioning of district child protection units, child welfare committees, juvenile justice boards, specialized juvenile police units, child care institutions. The eligibility parameters for appointment of CWC, CWC is child welfare committees members, have been redefined. Criteria for disqualification of CWC members has also been introduced to ensure that only the persons capable of rendering quality service with requisite competence and integrity are appointed to CWC. So basically the powers have been given to the DM. Now what you can find out is what was the process earlier, right? This is what you need to find, and read section 61 and you're done. Presently, there are three categories, petty, serious and heinous, defined under the Act, which are referred to while considering the cases of children in conflict with law. Right? However, it was observed that some of the offences do not strictly fall under any of these categories. So three categories हैं, petty, serious and heinous, and कुछ offences ऐसे हैं जो किसी भी category में fall नहीं करते. It has been decided that offences where the maximum sentence is more than 7 years, 7+ years की जहाँ पे offense commit करने पे सजा है, the 7 years imprisonment, but no minimum sentence has been. Please read it carefully. It has been decided that offences where the maximum sentence is more than 7 years imprisonment, but no minimum sentence has been prescribed or minimum sentence of less than 7 years is provided shall be treated as serious offence within this Act. Very important. Difficulties faced in implementation of various provisions of the Act have also been addressed, and suitable amendments to remove these difficulties arising in the interpretation of various provisions. So you can read, you can try to understand more that what is the definition of serious offence. Very important, very, very important. Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Ordinance 2021 was promulgated on April 4, 2021. It amends the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016. So Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code are important. Now, insolvency is a situation where individuals or companies are unable to repay their outstanding debt. Now, by chance, if they say that tell us about the acts that have been amended, I would say if they give you the option to talk about the acts, then I would say the recent amendments, if they give you an option, then I would say go for the juvenile justice one. It is on the easier side. Go for the retrospective one. It is again towards the easier side. Pick up the easier ones. Don't pick up the difficult ones, right? Pick up the ones about which you can explain, right? Now, insolvency and bankruptcy, if you understand it, well and good. If not, then choose the ones that you are understanding, right? The code provides a time-bound process for resolving the insolvency of corporate debtors within 330 days, called the corporate insolvency resolution process. Now, what does the Act says? कि अगर कोई किसी के पैसे company is not able to repay the amount, then what it has to go through the resolving. It would be resolved, right? And within 330 days, this process would take place, and what is this known as corporate insolvency resolution process, CIRP. The debtor himself or its creditors, right? The debtor, the person who has to pay, the company that has to pay the money, or the creditors who have to take the money from the company, may apply for initiation of CIRP in the event of a default of at least 1 lakh rupees. If the company is not able to pay 1 lakh rupees, because that's the beginning, if it is not able to pay 1 lakh rupees to a person, this minimum amount, then what used to happen earlier, the companies used to keep on, they were not able to repay, there was no quick action that was taken, and ultimately the company would reach a point wherein it cannot pay anything, and the creditors were not able to take back their money, right? But now nothing like that can happen. The creditor or the debtor can approach the NCLT and tell them to do something, right? Like either they will sell all the assets or whatever the company has and pay off to the creditors, or someone would take over the business and then the person would pay the money off, right? Under CIRP, a committee of creditors is constituted to decide regarding the insolvency resolution. The committee may consider a resolution plan which typically provides for the payoff of the debt by merger, acquisition or restructuring of the company. ठीक है ना, merge कर सकते हैं किसी के साथ, कोई अक्वायर कर ले कंपनी को, रीस्ट्रक्चर करना कंपनी को, कुछ भी करेंगे, ठीक है ना. इफ अ रेजोल्यूशन प्लान इज नॉट अप्रूव्ड बाय द कमिटी ऑफ क्रेडिटर्स विद इन द स्पेसिफाइड टाइम, द कंपनी इज लिक्विडेटेड. फिर क्या होता है, अगर कोई कंपनी का कोई मतलब प्लान अप्रूव नहीं होता तो लिक्विडेट हो जाती है. मतलब इंस्टेड की वो वर्किंग में रहेगी तो वो बिक जाएगी ना, कोई उसको बाय कर लेगा, समवन वुड बाय द कंपनी. बट अदरवाइज इफ द प्लान इज नॉट अप्रूव्ड, से द क्रेडिटर्स आर नॉट गेटिंग व्हाट दे एक्सपेक्ट और व्हाट दे वांट टू गेट आउट ऑफ द कंपनी, right, then the plan might not be approved by the creditors, right? So what happens then? It is liquidated, then everything is sold off and everything is done, like whatever is there, if it is having any land, machinery, everything is sold off, right? During CIRP, the affairs of the company are managed by the resolution professional, that is RP, who is appointed by to conduct CIRP. Now this is a very expensive process because somewhat expenses are incurred. CA is appointed, there are a lot of things, right? So what has been done, let's read. What is pre-packed insolvency resolution mechanism? Now through the amendment, this thing has been introduced, what it is called, pre-packed insolvency resolution mechanism. Pre-packed insolvency resolution mechanism is a procedure in which a resolution arrangement is decided upon between the lender and the debtor before approaching the NCLT. ठीक है ना, तो NCLT is the tribunal wherein people go and say that, where the creditor or the debtor goes and say that okay, we cannot pay, or the creditor says he is not paying my money, right? He or she, the company is not paying my money. Now what here they have done is, now before they approach the NCLT, before they get into the legal procedure, before they approach the court, what they can do is a procedure in which a resolution arrangement is decided upon between the lender and the debtor before approaching the NCLT. For receiving an approval under this pre-pack framework, a debtor will initiate and participate in the resolution procedures in tandem with the lender. This is done through an informal process that helps in avoiding costly and lengthy court procedures, right? Obviously they are going to appoint lawyers, they are going to appoint CAs, there's a lot of work for both of them, right? So before they go to the court, they can also arrive at a settlement, or they can arrive at a plan, right? Corporate insolvency resolution process, as stated in Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code IBC, under the existing corporate insolvency resolution process, a maximum number of days is provided for the resolution process to be completed. To take control of the administration, a resolution professional is appointed and the promoters have to step down. ठीक है, जो कंपनी को पहले रन कर रहे होते हैं, डायरेक्टर्स या प्रोमोटर्स, they have to step down, right? The appointed RP then manages the resolution and bidding process, which generally takes several months under the new pre-pack scheme. Now what happens is, they are talking about the earlier process, they are talking about the earlier process, but now what they have done is they are saying that the lender and the debtor, they can sit together. Now this has been changed, and under the new plan, under the new pre-pack scheme, the time limit for the resolution will be reduced and the participants will get 90 days to submit resolution plans, and NCLT will approve them in another 30 days. So 90 plus 30 days, right? So they are trying to reduce the time. And if the person who has taken the money wants that the business should go on, but has a plan that okay, this I'll be doing and this way I'll be able to pay off your amount, and then that plan is approved by NCLT, then it is somewhat, the court is also involved but not much, and the time is also reduced. So that is going to benefit the MSMEs, that is the small scale industries. Okay. General Insurance Business Nationalization Amendment Bill 2021 is being discussed a lot. Again, important. It was introduced in Lok Sabha on July 30, 2021. The bill seeks to amend the General Insurance Business Nationalization Act 1972. Please make a note that which act it is going to amend. And please guys, I told you that you need to understand the process, the procedure by which law comes into being. You also need to understand the process of amendment, right? How amendment takes place. Okay, majority required, what is special majority, what is what are the other kind of ways to get that amendment can happen. So it is very important that you go through that chapter as well. Yet another important topic for Indian Constitution is your directive principles, fundamental rights, fundamental duties, really important. The act was enacted to nationalize all private companies undertaking general insurance business in India. Now what happened in 1972? This act came into being. What was the purpose then? Was enacted to nationalize. ठीक है ना, इसका मतलब government, nationalize means government took over of all the private companies undertaking general insurance business in India. So this happened in 1972. Now, the bill seeks to provide for a greater private sector participation in the public sector insurance companies regulated under the Act. Now, what in 2021, what the government wants, that the private sector should play a major role in giving insurance, or having the private sector should have more of the companies, so that better schemes can be there, right? Better insurance policies can come into being. In 1972 Act set up the General Insurance Corporation of India, GIC. The businesses of the companies nationalized under the Act were restructured in 4 subsidiary companies. जितनी भी private companies थी at that point of time, with the number of private companies that were there were restructured, and there were 4 subsidiary companies of GIC. So General Insurance Corporation of India, and it had 4 subsidiaries. And they were National Insurance, New India Assurance, Oriental Insurance, and United India Insurance, right? This happened in 1972. The Act was subsequently amended in 2002. Now, after 1972, in 2002, this act was amended. What happened? Amended to transfer the control of these 4 subsidiary companies from GIC to the central government, thereby making them independent companies. Since 2000, GIC exclusively undertakes reinsurance business, right? So what happened in 2002? These companies were taken away from GIC and they were made independent companies, and GIC remained a business in itself, right? Government shareholding threshold. The Act requires the shareholding of the central government in the specific insurers. The above 5 companies must be at least 51%. क्या requirement है? That 51% should be there in the 4 subsidiary companies which are now independent companies of the central government, and the one company, right? 5 companies, if you'll see in the previous slide. The bill removed this provision. Now what was there? That 51% requirement is that requires the shareholding of the central government. So central government shareholding, it made it, these are public companies, right? But now this requirement has been removed. This requirement has been removed, so the government can sell off their shares. So and these can be privatized. That is what I am saying. But what is the main thing that has been done? Let's read it again. The Act requires that the shareholding of the central government in the specified insurers, the above 5 companies, must be at least 51%. This is the requirement of the Act. What has been changed? The bill removed this provision. This provision has been removed. Change in definition of general insurance business. The Act defines general insurance business as fire, marine, or miscellaneous insurance business. It excludes capital redemption and annuity certain business from the definition. Capital redemption insurance involves payment of a sum of money on a specific date by the insurer after the beneficiary pays premiums periodically. Under annuity certain insurance, the insurer pays the beneficiary over a period of time. The bill removed this definition and instead refers to the definition provided by Insurance Act 1938. Under the Insurance Act, capital redemption and annuity certain are included within general insurance business. So earlier, these businesses, the capital redemption insurance business was not included. That is what it said. It excluded, but now it is included. The definition that has been given to the word insurance in Insurance Act 1938, that is what would be considered. Right, this is very, very important. Please make a note of the same. See that most of the bills are passed through voice vote. Now what is voice vote? Acclamation is a voting method in deliberative assemblies such as legislatures in which a group vote is taken on a topic or motion by responding orally. The voice vote is considered the simplest and quickest of voting methods used by deliberative assemblies. The presiding officer or chair of the assembly will put the question to assembly asking, first of all, those in favor of the motion to indicate so orally, aye or yeah, yes or no, and then ask second all those opposed to the motion to indicate so verbally, no or nay. Right, so what is done is the speaker would ask orally that, okay, should we pass the bill or not, is it okay or not. Yes, the people who are in favor of the bill would raise their hand, and then he'll ask those not in the favor of passing the bill, they would raise the hand. The chair will then make an estimate of the count on each side and state what they believe the result to be. Right, so then he will count and state the result to be. So because of Pegasus, because of everything that is happening in the country, there are a lot of protests that are going inside Lok Sabha. So the bills are being passed by voice vote. So you should know about voice vote. A far-fetched thought, but then also I've told you, if they ask you, you can tell them. Okay, guys, that's it. Please keep on reading the newspaper. Follow me on Instagram at IamLawgiri. Please watch my legal current affairs videos if you have time. Revise your constitution, torts, contracts, criminal law, and follow current affairs. The topics that I have mentioned, I'll keep on mentioning the topics on my website. The link is going to be in the description box. I'll also try that all of this, the notes that I've shared with you, I'm able to provide them so that you can just read also. So yeah, that's it for today's video. I know I couldn't research more. I wanted to give you detail, like a lot more detail, but I knew that if I keep on working on the details, I'll miss out on putting this video for all of you guys. So I hope this video helps. If yes, then do like the video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification on, and if you have any queries, you can leave a comment down below. That's it for today's video. Lawgiri signing off. I'll see you super soon. Bye and take care. All the best for your interview.